Good morning, everybody. This is our third presentation for the camp meeting. Let's open with a word of prayer. Lord, as we come to you today, trying to have a clearer understanding of what it is you're trying to show us, the experience that you're trying to bring us through. Help us to have a clearer understanding of what our relationship with you should be, our relationship with others around us, and the environment in which we live. In Jesus' name, Amen. For those of you who are joining us online, we continue to discuss what we said in our second presentation or sometime after the meeting closed. But that's not unusual. I just want to have a recap of some of the points that were brought up yesterday. We spoke about the changes in our diet and the way it's been represented on the board is as the numbers 1, 2, and 3. So you'll see it there, 1, 2, 3. And what those numbers are meant to represent are the subtle changes that have happened over time Is someone going to put the timer on, or shall I? As human beings began at the beginning at creation, all the way through history. And there's a dot just by the end, and that's meant to represent Ellen White and the instruction that came through her ministry. We've discussed at some length the subject of Eden to Eden, or the model of Eden to Eden. I hope we're now comfortable, which means we're in agreement, that this Eden to Eden model cannot realistically be found in the Bible. It's something that Ellen White brings forth, and it's a cornerstone of her of her ministry, of her work. As we were discussing yesterday, people came up with different arguments or different defenses of their position. And there are two on the board. What are the two defenses? One word for each one. As it's one word, you can just shout it out. Nobody knows what I'm talking about? People gave various arguments to defend this Eden to Eden model. And we discussed them, and I believe we were shown that they were wrong. So just to direct our minds, two arguments or models that were given. There are more than two, but there are only two on the board. Just want to point to what the markers are. Someone said something? Not that. Okay. Someone said something? Daniel and Paul. So they're the two models that were given. Someone took us to 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 25. So I just wrote it. Then someone took us to verse 23. And I checked that one. I didn't check verse 25. And then someone said that verse 23 is wrong. It's a completely different subject. A different subject to the one that we're studying. And the one that we're looking at is some biblical instruction over this 6,000-year history to change the diet. And then someone else came up with the model of Daniel, as though that was instruction. And I hopefully explained to your satisfaction that that also was not a good example. So I've left 1 Corinthians 10 on the board with the verse numbers. And I gave the point to when I said Paul is the last biblical prophet to do what? If someone's going to speak, they just put the hand up. If it's in English. Go ahead.
Was it to change diet?
I can't hear you.
Diet. Eat all things.
For translators online, they say they can't hear the first word. It's nothing that we're doing at our end. There's a problem with Zoom. There's no. I'll repeat, but we're not doing anything wrong at our end. So just to let everybody know.
Let's see.
So say the two things.
What was it? Paul was the last one to change diet. Eat all things. Allowed to eat all things.
Now,
To eat all things.
so Paul is the final biblical prophet that gives any instruction on diet. So I gave you Paul. I gave you a phrase to find a verse to. Someone said 1 Corinthians 10:25, which I accepted without checking. Someone said verse 23 proves the opposite. So then I checked it. And 23 was wrong. Then someone said, if 23 is wrong, why is 25 up there? And I said 25 wasn't my verse, it was someone else's. So let's begin by clearing that mess up. We've had 13 and a half hours. Can someone give me the verse, please? Don't start looking now. Should have already had the verse. If you have the verse, if you're asking the verse for what? This, and this is wrong. The verse. I'm looking for the right verse, not the wrong verse. Paul says, you have permission to eat all things that are good. And it's not 1 Corinthians 10. Okay, long enough. Is that enough help? Someone keeps on telling me we don't use our Bibles enough and all that stuff. And when we do, everyone doesn't even have their Bibles anymore. Now give me the verse. We're beginning to slow down here because it's a busy cat meeting. Okay, enough of that. Daniel, what chapter is that? Chapter 1? Everybody agrees chapter 1? I don't have to check. Okay. Daniel 1. Does everybody understand what the issue is there? It's not an issue of diet reform. It's an issue of worship. Is Paul from 1 Corinthians 10 disagreeing with Daniel? Anybody saying yes? Some people are saying yes. And two people said yes and the others said no. For all of you who said no, Daniel said, I don't eat food offered to idols. I'm faithful to God. And Paul said in Corinthians, you're allowed to eat anything you want. It's silly to not eat food that's offered to idols. Now are they disagreeing? Put your hands up if they're disagreeing. Okay, so we've tripled the number because people are easily gullible. Are easily tricked because they don't follow rules. I thought one prophet doesn't disagree with another prophet. They don't contradict one another. And I just persuaded 6 or 7 of you to say they do. And there's 2 people that said they do to begin with, without my help. People on this side remained firm. So the answer is what? Depends on your target audience. We're all actors in a play, and we have to act our part for our audience. I'll leave you to think about that. And you will see, hopefully, they don't contradict one another. And we're not going to read 1 Timothy. You can do that. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 4. Okay. Is that too small on the board for people online? Is that yes? You can't read it? Okay. I asked several times yesterday. I posed the question in the following way. We have a line which we call Eden to Eden. And we've already agreed that this first Eden isn't really Eden. Does anybody have any questions on that? Which means, does anybody disagree with that? This plan given to us by the spirit of prophecy is not the Eden diet. Are we all okay with that? If you put your hand up, means you're not okay. In German.
You mean the first Eden?
First Eden. This one here. It's not really Eden. It's a pre-sin and post-sin diet. And diet number 2 happens outside of Eden. So we're all in agreement with that. We come to the end of the world, and that's called the Eden diet. Because Ellen White says we need to go back to the original plan. So this was diet 1. I'll say 1 and 2 so we don't get confused. Ellen White says do the same at the end of the world. We all agree with that? Same diet. So then I asked the question. I'm going to put a tick. And I'm going to put spirit of prophecy next to it. Which means we all agree, the tick, that that is a spirit of prophecy instruction. It doesn't mean anything beside that. The tick doesn't mean it's correct. It just means what spirit of prophecy said. I'm saying that for your notes so you don't misread your notes later on. Then we asked a second question. And what was the second question? Same diet.
Same body.
We're told to have the same diet. Do we have the same body? And we had a lot of discussion about this. Some people said yes, some people said no. And if I look funny at you, some people say I don't know. So I want us to just come to a conclusion on this point. if we have the same body or if we have a different body. In that discussion, the idea came, which is not a new idea. That something changed as a result of sin. Hopefully remember that point. So I want us to just revisit that. So I don't care too much about the example, it's the principle behind this. Because it's something that comes up over and over again. Not just by us, but by many people. Change is brought about by sin. So is there any disagreement that because of the introduction of sin into this world, there have been some changes? Does anybody disagree with that simple statement? Everybody agreed. So we agree that there have been some changes. So the question that we need to ask ourselves is, what are those changes and what impact have they had? So has there been a change in the environment from number 1 into number 2 and then into number 3? I assume everybody thinks yes, so put your hands up if you say no. So we all agree here that the environment has changed. We all agree the environment changed. How did the environment change from number 1 to number 2? Number 1 and 2 are here. Pre-sin and post-sin. Post means afterwards, of course. What made the change? I'm not asking what the change was. Put your hand up if you have an answer. Emma.
They were thrown out of the garden.
So my question is about a change in the environment. And do you think you answered my question? If you do, then I haven't asked my question correctly. Let me ask a different question. Did the environment change Yes or no?
Yes.
Ano?
Give me one example.
Thorns grew.
Začali rastry?
So there was a plant and the stem of the plant was smooth. And then after sin, it developed thorns. Is that what you said? How quick was that? How quick was it?
I don't think it was straight away.
Since
200 years? 2 years? Or 2 days?
Not sure.
neviem,
Probably two,
2 dní alebo
no, quicker than 2 years.
asi rýchlejšie ako 2
Months.
mesiacov.
I didn't hear your answer. Months.
Mhm.
Are these the same plant? I mean, literally the same plant. Or is this the baby of this plant?
Mhm.
Baby, I think.
Myslím, že je to
So Emma said the plant didn't change from pre-sin to post-sin. There was no change. Is that what you said?
tak to hovoríš.
And she said the baby of that first plant suddenly grew thorns. That's what you said.
Yes, I think so.
Okay. How did that happen?
Mutation.
Mutácia.
So Emma said the genes changed. What you said? So I don't care what the sin was. Adam lied. And then the genes of a plant change. And when Esther said that, everybody laughed. When Emma says it, we're all taking it seriously. You want to say anything more?
The struggle is to connect the two, yeah.
Tam je ten boj,
So that was no, you don't say anything more? Are you struggling with what you have said?
nie.
It makes sense to you?
Yeah.
Áno.
So before sin, I didn't have sweat glands. I did not have sweat glands. After sin, mutation. I mutate and now can sweat.
I think that's the same.
Je to isté.
It's not the. What'd you say?
Good.
I don't think the physical structure of humans changed at the fall.
Nemyslím si, že sa zmenila.
That logic,
Následovali tú logiku,
the physics change.
tak ani tá fyzická štruktúra rastu.
So you said that plant didn't change from the parent plant to the child plant. And that's the difference.
Does it talk about the plant?
You did. You said Adam was different.
No, I said I don't think. So
To the plant.
I said Adam didn't change.
Ja som povedala, že Adam sa nezmenil.
So now I'm changing the plant.
How do you know Adam didn't change? There's no sweat before sin. And there's sweat after sin. And you're just putting your common sense over that. And I say, put your common sense over this. And you say, I can do that. But you can't prove anything.
It's timing then.
Podľa mňa je tam ten čas, to časovanie.
I'll ask the question again. 2 days, 2 years, 200 years.
2 roky, 200 rokov.
There are physical changes to human beings over that time.
Just give me the years. For the plant.
Pre tú rastlinu.
Months. Yeah.
Mesiace.
I think it must be months for the human being.
Je to mesiace.
I'm asking about plants. Parent plant. Child plant. That's one generation. You're saying in one generation it got thorns.
I'm not sure.
Nie som istá.
The problem is, you call it common sense or preconceived ideas. Because when Esther said the glands suddenly appeared, which sounds silly. I'm guessing most of you think the thorns just appeared. Until you realize it can't be that way. And if you can't be that way, did it happen in the next generation? Because if it did, what does that mean? Because what's my first question? What's the first word of my first question? Speak out loud. Let's say something.
The environment change.
So yes for that. Then ask the second question then. So.
What's changed?
So we'll go with what? And we'll say the environment. I'm not good at maths. So if that was number 2, I'm going to go for number 3 then. What was that one? How? Emma said, I'll write genes. No, I'm going to write mutation of genes. Okay? Everybody agree with that? So the environment changed because of gene mutation. Put your hands up if you disagree with that. Oh, some people disagree. My question is, how? Monica, how? You can say that.
What I remember is that the death came in after sin. Leaves fell down from the tree and plants died.
Just tell me how.
More process, how we also know it in autumn.
If you're going to go to autumn, did we have autumn in pre?
No.
If we had autumn in pre, if they had sinned later on, what would have happened in the sinless world?
There would have not been an autumn.
I asked you, was there an autumn before? You said you didn't know. So if there was one, what would have happened before sin?
There should have already been plants or leaves should have already fallen.
So you see the problem with your argument? I don't care. I don't care about the leaves. You don't have to leave your hand up. I saw it. You know why the leaves are falling? Because autumn has come. Was there autumn before?
Probably.
If there's autumn before, the leaves die before. So death is not a consequence of sin. You agree with that? So there was no change in the environment. unless you come up with another change. So there have been no changes in the environment because of sin.
I understand.
Now, I'm just repeating what you're saying. Okay. Who had the hand up here? Oh, you had your hand up, yeah? Your name, sorry? Joachim. Joachim, sorry.
Ich habe verstanden, dass die Trennung der Gene
Too long, too long.
I don't know if I understood correctly, but I understood that the environment changed the genes. The genes changed environment.
Genes and what?
Genes changed environment.
The genes change the environment.
Yeah, understood. If it was translated correctly. So I think it must be the other way around. The environment must have changed the genes.
Yes, it is.
My question was, okay, so no, before I go that, have you finished your point?
This, yes, but I have another point.
Okay. So before you have your other point, so the environment changed, and then I asked, how did the environment change? We've got mutation, but that's not really the quite the answer. So answer this question for me. Not what made gene mutation. You said environment. What changed the environment?
hat eigentlich den Gott
What changed the environment was the curse that God said or spoke about.
So the simple answer is what?
The curse.
What is the curse? When you say the curse, what is the curse? Don't give me the description of it. The concept.
Also das war, dass Gott nicht den Menschen direkt verfluchen wollte, sondern für den Menschen wurde die Erde verflucht.
So it was not that God wanted to curse the people directly, it was that God cursed the earth.
So God. How? The answer is God. Not gene mutation. What changed? The environment. How did it change? God did it. Esther?
Bible, it says that God made them fur, clothes.
Let's not quote Bible verses. Tell me your model.
When sin is here, the death is the consequence.
What is the consequence? Death.
God killed first the animals, that's why the clothes. That's why they had the clothes.
God killed animals.
Who has done this? Yeah.
If you don't know, say animals were killed. Don't add. Oh. Don't add to things you don't know.
Animals were killed. From this moment on, the environment started to die.
How did the animals die?
I don't know.
I know. Someone killed them. So you know. The next point of your argument?
I already said that's what I think. Everything started to die in its normal process.
Things began to die. But that's a different story to killing animals. Things didn't die because they were being killed.
The process started because sin came into the world.
The process began not because sin entered. Why did the environment change? Rudolphe? Slow down.
Dass durch die Sünde sich die Umwelt verändert hat.
Just a short question. Do you agree that through the sin, the environment changed?
Is through a correct translation? Aileen said through sin.
Yeah, it's the correct translation.
So to me, through means because. which is what Esther just said. And I disagreed. Environment didn't change because of sin. It's the answer's already on the board. How did the environment change? Rodolfo? Just read the board, unless you disagree.
Ich würde zum Beispiel sagen, Apfelbaum war vor der Sünde. Oder Apfelbaum ist auch nach.
I would say the apple tree was before sin, but also after sin.
Apple tree. I would say the environment changed, not because of God, not because of sin, but because of God. You said God changed it. Can't ask why unless you know who. How can Adam change the environment? He doesn't have that power. So someone else must be doing it. It might sound obvious when we say it. If we don't take all the steps, we end up missing information and making mistakes later on. I don't know what question number 1 was. We're on number 4, which is what? What? What's the question number 4? If you need help, ask me. If you need help, ask me. Because if you need help, others do. What's the word for question 4? One word. I don't say this to be difficult. I say it as a training exercise. To try to inculcate or train rigor, discipline. It might be subtly different in your language. You need to ask 3 questions. What, how, and not when. Because I already know that. Let's not whisper until Rodolfo gets it. What would you want to ask? If you're not sure this, that's fine. But don't look to your neighbours. I heard it shouted 2 or 3 times. Why? And you know the answer why. You already told us why.
Confused.
You put sin here. And I'm suggesting it should be here. Does anybody disagree with the logic of that? The environment changes. It changes because of God. It changes because we'll just say sin at this level. If we're okay with that, let's go back to this model that Emma gave to us. There's an environmental change. Emma said. No, someone said, sorry, someone said. We know how the environment changed because God clicked their finger. When God clicked their finger, something began to change in the environment. The reason God clicks their finger is because something bad has happened. As soon as the environment changes, what's the plant going to do, Emma? Before you answer that question, those online, Emma's disagreeing with what I've said. So is the plant the environment or something else? You don't understand, I'll rephrase it. Or if you say you're not sure, I'll ask someone else.
I think I don't want to put God there, that's why.
Ja tam nie chcę dawać Boha.
Say,
Skús to ináč povedať.
start again.
Povedz sa znovu.
What did you just say?
Čo si
Oh, I said,
povedala?
I think I don't want to put God there.
Tam nechcem dávať Boha.
Do you agree with that? The environment changed. Define environment. Either with precept or example.
The place where they live.
Miesto, kde žijú.
Anything else besides place?
Ešte niečo?
Planet?
Planet.
Earth changed. Is the plant Earth?
Rastlina?
The plant is Earth. And Adam is Earth. So Adam doesn't live on the earth, Adam is the earth.
Nežije na zemi, ale on je zem.
If I ask you, what's the weather like today? Am I asking you what the environment is today? Yes or no?
Yes.
Áno.
And you're going to say, I'm very well, thank you. I said, I asked about the environment. And you said, I am the environment. You didn't say, I live in the environment. So ask again. Is the plant the environment? Okay.
Nie.
So the plant is not the environment. So do you agree with that? Number two, how did the environment, the place, the earth change? I'm not asking for the mechanism.
Oh, I want to put Satan.
So Satan changed it, not God.
Nie Boh.
The environment changing now.
So you don't think the environment changed? Forget all of that. Let's go to number three. Who did that flood?
God.
You sure God did that one? Yes.
Yes.
Was it an environmental change? So you don't mind God changing the environment? Because of
Sin.
what? Why do you have a problem with that one then? You seem to have a conceptual problem that God does that. I don't mind. So Satan does it. Why does Satan change the environment now? And not yesterday? She's happy with God. And the reason she's happy with God is because she realizes that Satan wanted to change the environment yesterday. But they weren't allowed to. God didn't give them permission to. Which is the same thing as saying God changed the environment. Yep. Satan then becomes a tool in God's hand. A worker for God. Does God's dirty work. And we shouldn't have a problem with that. Let's not name names, literally. We'll use symbology. Two things that do the dirty work for God. Number one, ones we know.
King of the South.
I've got unstable internet. Who said?
Silicate.
Yeah.
I'll go with King of the South. It's Whoever shouted that one out. East wind. I said symbology, please. Third time. Babylon and the east wind. So we're okay with that we have models to show. So now you can have Satan doing it. And when did Satan do God's dirty work? Tamina? That was your example? That's what Emma said, not me. Don't erase my board work. Thomas.
When people choose Satan instead of God.
I'll go with Job. Job. Joab. Now you've got me worried. Who's Job? Yeah, yeah. Who was Job? That person who got all the stuff on his skin? Yeah, I know. No, Job. Okay, back to Emma. The environment is not the plant. God changed the environment. And the reason God changed the environment is because of sin. Tell me what happens to the plant. Before you tell me, does the plant change? Everybody agree? The plant changes. Is the change good or bad, Emma?
Bad.
Zła.
Thomas? Just good or bad? Good? Good. No.
And
One
bad.
or the other.
Good for the environment
Good.
changes.
Now there's peer pressure going. Don't know. Don't know. Don't know. Don't know. Good. Don't know. Bad. Good. Good. Bad. Don't know. We've got lots of goods. Okay. To help us along, I'll give the complete question. Who can finish it off? What's the question that we should ask? Is it good?
First Timothy 4,
Not
4.
verses. Don't want any verses.
God created is good.
No, not verses.
For whom?
Good. You said for whom? You've only got one whom. What is the whom here?
Next to me.
No, Thomas.
For the plant.
Good. Okay, I thought that was plant. Everybody agree with the plant. God put something in that plant, which we'll call genes. And there is enough information in that gene to allow the plant to do what? We'll go with change. That's right.
Defend oneself.
So God put enough information in that plant's genes to protect itself. So if we can agree with that, that's we should change. But it's not just change, it's protection. Protecting itself against what? Tamina? Against the environment. Bigger or smaller? Okay. So we have genes in the plant. And God has, what did this mean? I've forgotten. Thorns. Is that what I said? It was thorns? Okay. Is the change, the plant changes because it's good for the plant to change. And it's the thorns that do it. And we said the genes have enough information within them to allow these changes. And they're protecting themselves against the environment. Are we all okay with that? Am I back? So I asked Emma if she was okay. We've got now a model to explain these changes. Any questions? Let's go.
Don't understand the last one. Plant protects itself against the environment. Environment due to it.
I didn't hear the last one you said.
What does the environment do to it?
So I don't know what the field of science this is, if it's biology or environmental science. So I can't answer why creating thorns due to whatever the environmental changes were, why it's positive. It's a positive change. But I'm not here to defend the science of why thorns are good. What I am saying is, if the environment changes, if the plant doesn't respond, it will die. You die. So what the plant does, it creates thorns so it doesn't die. So therefore, the creation of thorns, which is really the mutation into thorns, is something good or a protection. We should all be able to see the logic of that, even if we don't understand why thorns are good. I'll take a couple of questions before we close. If we can see this here and understand this example, it will help you to understand and explain many things around the world that might seem confusing. Because the principle that I want us to see here, the plant is a victim or a tenant, a tenant, someone who rents a building, or a tenant. Tenant is someone who lives in a rented house. Of the planet, which is the environment. And when God creates something that has life, not inanimate objects. Inanimate means dead ones. They have one driving principle, which is what? Life. They strive to have life. And therefore, that plant has information built into itself that it will resist death. It will do all that it can not to die. So when we start talking about death, we need to be careful how we conceptualize that. Because we have this idea that God's around killing everything. This is why we were having problems originally in our previous study about what's going on at the end of the world. So let me summarize. Things that are alive are created not to die. They desire to live. And they've got all these mechanisms built within them call it genes, cells, your immune system, whatever you want to call it. Living creatures or living things have multiple systems. So when the environment changes, those systems will begin to be activated, which were given by God to sustain life. If we can get that model to work for this simple plant, and it has integrity, you now have your first witness. You just find another one, do a test upon it, that has integrity. You have the testimony of two. And you know everything is good. So, to cut the story short, to the best of my understanding, all this model here that we have just done is correct. Thorns cannot be bad for plants. Now, you might say, well, plants were there to serve humans. Try telling that to a plant. They will say, no, we're here to live. And we will protect ourselves at any cost. That's why berries have thorns and you don't like it. God did not put thorns on, I don't know if you call it bramble or berry bushes, roses. To hurt you. To make life difficult. They're not that clever. They're not. They're there to protect itself against the environment. The reason why I think it's important to understand this, because it tells you the God that you serve. It tells you how God thinks. I know we had questions, but I'm going to stop because we've run out of time. I want to say one more thing. I don't care about this one. What changed? I don't care about this one. Why it changed? What should interest you is how. What's the mechanism behind this all? And what we mean by that is it natural or supernatural? The difference between a Christian and an atheist is this question here. What's the mechanism to change environment? Once we get that answered, we'll be able to deal with this line. And our question on diet. So we need to try to know how God changed environment. Let's pray. Can you hear me? Holy God, we thank you. Despite all that we see, despite all the confusion that we might have, help us to believe. Help us to see that you are often very different to the ideas we have about you. You are not a God that hurts. You're a God that wants to heal. And that everything you do for your created beings is good. Bless us in Jesus' name. Amen. We're back in the 8.5 hours. I want to apologize for our internet instability. Thank you all very much.